Hey everyone, welcome to the Ubisoft Forward post show. My name is Yusuf McGeed, and this is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We're going to take a deep dive into about 30 minutes of gameplay, and we're joined by a very special guest here.
Hey everyone, this is Philippe Bergeron, otherwise known as Phyz. I am the quest director on Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
So Phyz, we're setting up here for what looks like an epic encounter. Tell us exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, so here we're midway through the quest that we're showing for UB Forward. Here we're looking at the assault of Berg Castle. So these are big moments that usually sort of culminate at the end of the story. And so here Eivor, our Viking raider, is taking a group of raiders and Fyrds into Berg Castle to go and take down Rued and his clan.
So who exactly is Rued, and why does Eivor sort of want to pick a fight with him?
Basically, Rued comes into play about halfway through this story arc, where at the beginning of the arc, this is something that happens before, Rued basically caused a lot of turmoil within the territory, and Oswald, who's the sort of elderman to inherit this territory, needs your help to take him down. Oswald having just been defeated in a previous quest, and so here this is revenge, but also accomplishing your ultimate goal.
So Phyz, as you're talking, we're seeing some of the combat of Valhalla. Can you tell us a little bit about the changes to combat this time around?
We wanted to basically add a lot of new mechanics to it. So we added like some dual wielding for the player, like a stun system in there. And we really needed to do this to sort of portray that sort of the brutality that comes with being a Viking in this day and age. So it sort of fits into that, the time and the character.
Oswald. He lives. Oswald lives!
Eivor, is that you? Shut your arse, twig spine.
Here, Eivor has taken her entire army through the assault, and finally it's revealed that our Elderman, our ally, Oswald, is still alive, and Rued has him captive.
So this is what it comes to, Wolfkist? 2 Danes fighting over a filthy Saxon whoreson? If this swine is your prize, come and get him!
So now that we've seen that Oswald is alive, we have Rued within our sights. What's the next step here?
So the next move for Eivor is to finally face off against Rued. She has her allies, they can take care of the rest of the army. Now it's time to go one-on-one against Rued in one of our boss battles, actually.
Your battle is not yet won, Oswald.
And it's worth pointing out, actually, that here what we're showing is the player going and facing off against Rued aggressively, but we tend to always have to support a 360-degree approach in these things. So the player could have approached this a little bit more stealthily and gotten at least like a good critical hit on either Rued or his wolf, and so you can play this a little bit more strategically if that's your playstyle.
So we're not only fighting Rued here, but also his pet wolf, right?
One of my preferred strategies is to eliminate the wolf first, just focus fire on him. It takes at least one opponent out of the combat. Now Rued will have extra abilities that come into play if you do eliminate his wolf, but I think having one opponent less in the battlefield makes for a good strategy in the whole.
Your efforts. Only the cold dark of Niflheim awaits you.
Valhalla is my destiny. That fate will not be met today. Why does they should be ruined, Wolfkist? Made thralls, not treated as equals. We are better than this. Than all of them.
Do not drag me down to the sewage you wallow in.
Why does a Dane fight tooth and nail for a Saxon? You'd throw in with these wastrels? These arrogant swine?
Eivor, no! He should be tried before God, a lawful assembly.
Alright, so we've defeated Rued, we freed Oswald. What comes next?
Oswald, in this case, prefers for Rued to be kept alive, and so you basically have to choose, are you going to go against his wishes or stay true to your nature?
So we have this choice to make, but before we get into that, I want to rewind a little bit because we just did this big, grand assault, but Eivor couldn't have done it alone. She clearly had to recruit some folks along the way, get some troops, get some allies. So let's actually rewind and see how we went about first gathering those troops.
Right, so when coming up to an assault, it's a game of numbers. Eivor can go into pretty much any location and be a stealthy Viking, eliminating some of the assets, which ultimately would be a strategy. You can do that, and you'll have some of the ingredients or of the assets there that will have been sabotaged, but you still need an army. So here what we're seeing is Eivor going around the countryside and raising what we call a Fyrd, which is the men and the women of the territory who come up and fight in the name of a king. So here Eivor is going around and trying to convince people to fight in the name of Oswald to finally take down the oppressor that is Rued.
Defending East Anglia, defending you. Will you not do the same?
What? Die in defense of a lost cause?
Yeah, so she's really using like the image and like the leadership that Oswald had, what he meant to the people. In his name, she's going to recruit these people.
Pretty words, Dane. But the men of Eivor have their own battles to fight.
So we're told by this Reeve that there are troops, there are allies that he could add to our cause, but first we sort of need to do him a favor, is that right?
Yeah, so obviously these people have been run down by Rued and the impact he's had on the territory, so I think a lot of these people have sort of lost hope. And so you need to show them that there is hope. And so here Eivor is basically helping them take back one of their prized locations by taking a couple men and raiding a nearby township, basically taking it back for the people and showing that there's a reason to continue fighting and then get them on your side. When Eivor does this, obviously you have access to a full suite of abilities. So again, the improvements that we've done to the fight system. You have some brutal axe throwing in there. You have archery or like range combat abilities in there as well. So really, again, like depending on what your playstyle is, you can customize your loadout and go in there how you wish.
Phyz, we just saw this giant pulse go out. What exactly was that?
So that is what we call the Odin sight. The Odin sight is basically our interpretation of the eagle vision from previous games, and we thought it was good to sort of bring that back. It's basically Eivor's intuition. It's how she perceives the world. When player uses that, it'll highlight basically interactive objects, like things that will bring her an advantage. So we'll have arrows, like health consumables that are in there. So it really is like a good way of sort of understanding the world and showing you like things that you can go and touch.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of things we can touch, we just picked up this awesome new weapon.
It's something we wanted to play with on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where we have fewer weapons in the game, but you can invest in them more, so they become your weapon. And so depending on what your preferred playstyle is or your preferred weapon type, then you can go and choose, I'm gonna fight with this weapon and invest heavily into that.
Not only are we looting weapons, but we see something here called the Book of Knowledge. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
They unlock skills for the players. So here you can see the Valkyrie dive that has just been unlocked. We have these spread out throughout the world, so again, to promote exploration and discovery. As you travel through the world and you explore locations, you can find these books that will add abilities that you can go and invest in, put into your loadout, then go into the different locations or the different quests in the game and use those depending on what your playstyle is.
Now we've recaptured this village, we've secured more troops for our assault. Let's jump back now and figure out what we want to do with Rued.
The rightful king of East Anglia has spared your life today, and so it will be.
Compassion is a virtue suited for anyone, Eivor, including you.
Thank you.
Eivor decided to let him live. Rued is really angry about that. Being a Norse Viking, being put to the death in battle is your road to Valhalla, so he was basically denied access to Valhalla in this situation. Obviously, all of these decisions come into play later on in the game, so we have very difficult decisions for the player to make. We didn't want to have easy decisions.
Yeah, you know, when I was playing, I decided to listen to Oswald and spare Rued's life, but what exactly is the relationship like between Eivor and Oswald?
So the relationship between Eivor and Oswald is an alliance. It's basically Eivor is surrounded by territories that initially getting into England are hostile towards her, and obviously if you want to set up a new settlement, you want to make sure that your neighbor is friendly. So here in East Anglia, Oswald is the man for the job, where putting him into a position of power would help her sort of secure her territory. So earlier on to the territory, Eivor comes in here, meets Oswald. The problems he had with Rued are sort of put to light, and going through the arc, you basically help him deal with Rued and aligning basically Danes with Saxons in one territory.
So, Phyz, we've completed the assault, we've gotten our hands dirty with some combat, taken down Rued. We have this big open region of East Anglia, so before we head off to Oswald's wedding, what do you say we head out, have some fun, and see what we can get into in the open world?
That sounds great.
So we see a cat here with a speech bubble above it, and you best believe if you let me talk to a cat, I'm gonna talk to a cat.
Yeah, these are some of our some of my favorite moments actually in the game, where we put out a whole bunch of events throughout the territory. And it sort of rewards, again, exploration, going around. It's a chance for us also to sort of showcase a different side of Eivor. A lot of the quests sort of deal more with like politics and warfare, and this shows a slightly more human nature to her. So it permits us to explore that character a little bit more. And so here, basically, like you're trying to help a kid with his cat, and ultimately get that cat to sort of join your crew as a cat raider.
You just said cat raider way too casually. You're telling me I could have a cat Viking raider on my Longship?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Oh my god, yes, I love it. Perfect.
So yeah, as you're riding around the rivers of England, you would see a cat basically walking around your Longship, keeping your Viking raiders company.
You know, speaking of the Viking Longship, we're seeing some of that gameplay here now. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and functions in Valhalla?
Yeah, so starting out on this project, I think the Viking Longship is one of the biggest images that we all have when we think about Vikings in our game. And so Vikings had this awesome design for Longship that had a very shallow hull, so it permitted them to go very far inland very quickly, and you could basically disembark Viking raiders like on pretty much any shore. We added that into the game, where you can basically sail up to any location and then just decide to disembark with your guys and raid a location, loot all its treasure, get back in the ship, and then continue sailing down the river to your next opportunity.
So I know past Assassin's Creed games allowed for songs and things like that to be sung on ships. Will Valhalla have a similar version of that?
Yeah, so this is something we actually wanted the crew of your ship to become like your home away from home. So we added stories and songs into the ship. So basically, as the player is going around, you could decide to have your skald sort of sing a song for you as you row down the river. But you can also decide, depending on who the raiders are in your ship, to hear more about their life. So you can actually queue up stories, and they'll give you a little bit more background on who they are. So you get to know your sort of fighters as you're traveling around the world, which is a cool moment.
So here we're seeing a bit of a different view. What exactly are we looking at?
We had this on previous Assassins, where you would like ride on your horse, and you could pull out, have the horse sort of follow the track. We have a similar thing for the ship, where you can put up your sails. It's cruise control for the ship, so you can pull back, take in the scenery, listen to some songs or some stories, and just take it all in.
So, you know, speaking of Viking songs, we have an activity here that's not exactly singing, but kind of related, right?
Yeah, so here what we have is what we call Flyting, which was an activity that Norse people would partake in. They would like to have a battle of wits and sort of poetry, where insults would be thrown back and forth between each other. The idea was to try and have a good insult, but also to have a good rhythm and a good rhyme in there. So it's basically a precursor to rap battles.
Here's the silver. Now begin.
To all those whom I speak, they say Eivor's a clod.
Then you're speaking to fools and their knowledge is flawed.
Well,
How exactly do you go about being successful in one of these?
The trick behind a good flight was to choose the right insult, identifying the right cadence, and then trying to find what rhymed the best.
I'm known for my might.
interesting. Interesting. Silent whispers all claim that you're terribly dense.
Then you've clearly misheard them. My wit is immense.
Oh, you looked out with that one. Well, what a surprise. Eivor of the Raven clan is a true talent. I'm shocked.
Don't believe everything you hear, unless it touches on my flyting. Then heed every word.
Take the coin.
So now that we've proven our sharp tongue and wit, I think it's time for a bit more relaxing activity. So we're fishing here.
Yeah, that's it. So we gave Eivor a fishing line, so you can actually throw out a line and go catch some fish. This is used basically to play into our new health loop, where the player will lose health in the world, and it doesn't automatically regenerate like we would have in the past. So you actually have to go out and get some supplies. So you'll find mushrooms and some food that you can gather. But here, like you can also catch some fish and consume that to regain some health. We also will sometimes have it in certain quests. So it's a good way to sort of chill out on the side of the water and just, again, take it all in. So this is what we call one of our offering altars. So the idea is that you find these around the world and you make offerings to it. So it'll take like animal parts and stuff that you can find throughout the world. Here what you're seeing though is sort of like a fancy version of it, where as you do your offering you get interrupted by some kids that basically come and steal your stuff. So it's just a way for us to sort of showcase that like the systems and the activities in the world can sort of play in with some quests and some little events. So it's our way to sort of dress up these moments and make it all fit inside the whole experience.
Yeah, this seemed like a really sort of unexpected turn for what I thought was going to be kind of a simple interaction.
Yeah, and it's really what we were trying to do with these events is to give another dimension to Eivor, other than just, the pure rar Viking or the politician. Because you can imagine at some point that will grow old if you're always telling that version of the character. So it lets us really go into the depth of who is Eivor, what motivates her, how she can interact with the world outside of warfare and politics.
But your stealth needs work.
We were close.
And it also showcases like a different facet of the world at the same time. It's not only Eivor. So it just widens the breadth of the stories that we can tell.
So who exactly are these two children?
These are kids of East Anglia. They are going through tough times with whatever Rued's been doing to the territory. And so they're just here trying to survive and basically exploit the people that are there to make offerings.
It was kind of nice to see that Eivor wasn't really necessarily upset at them for stealing, and after you talk to them, you have the choice of helping them. You can give them food, give them some money, or maybe just say, hey, good luck, on your way.
Yeah, and then this is something we also wanted to do a lot. Like, so here we're doing an event, we do it in quests as well, but we want to give a lot of this agency into players' hands so that they can sort of shape Eivor a little bit, who she is, so it represents them a little bit more, and they can roleplay that a little bit better. And again, it just gives her like a little bit more humanity in these moments.
This is what large walkers should do. Provide for small walkers.
Here, large walker.
A necklace?
Yes, it's a St. Martin seal. You're welcome here anytime, large walker. You're one of us now. Visit us, okay?
I will. Take care now, small green walkers.
So I think AC veterans might recognize this here, but what exactly is Eivor chasing down?
Yeah, so here you're seeing Eivor running down one of our tattoo images. So this is challenging the player on free run abilities, but also for fans of the series, sort of pulling at their heartstrings for some beloved features.
So are we going to be able to tattoo Eivor?
Yes, by collecting these tattoos, you actually bring them back to your settlement, and then you can customize different body parts, having different tattoos everywhere. So again, another form of expression, and it's sort of to represent that Viking culture.
Phyz, one of my favorite things when I was just out there exploring East Anglia was coming upon a house or a building and realizing that there was a chest inside, but that there was no easy way in. And in this case, I saw all the doors were barred, but I knew that because there was a chest in there must have been some way to get inside. So I went around the back and, found a way in.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually caught on to that. You're pointing at something that we wanted to work on a lot on Valhalla, where we wanted the exploration to make you feel smarter. So we played a lot with puzzle solving, so making sure that every house that you find sort of appeals to you, like it draws your attention, and then when you want to come and explore, it's not given to you. You still have to work for it a little bit, so it'll challenge you on your observation skills, logic, just trying to find how do I get into this. So we play a lot with level design, quest design to offer challenges to players, and you basically come out of it like with a better feeling for the exploration, but you also get to see more of a story behind any of these locations, which we've crafted. So it gave us a little bit more time to sort of slow down the experience and tell a different version of a story.
A poor victim of someone's fury.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about exploration and just finding things out in the world, I was just wandering and came across this clearing and found this kind of morbid altar.
Yeah, so this is one of our bigger events that we have scattered in the world. So as Eivor explores, she can find altars like this, and by interacting with them, here it's a trap that's been set by this character named Regan. Now, there's a bigger story behind all this. There's multiple steps to it later on. So this is one of the moments. It permits us to go into a slightly more mystical realm and play with a boss fight that has more magical abilities, if we will. And basically have this awesome boss fight in the middle of the swamps. And so here the abilities that you see Regan using are a little bit on the mystical side of things. What's happening is Eivor at the beginning in that trap is poisoned, and so she starts sort of hallucinating, seeing the world in a sort of different light and filter. And so that's sort of what lets us go into the realm of the weird.
My rage, spirit of my father's rage, fill me!
Enough of this cracking and crunching. Let rest your demons.
So we just saw here that Regan belongs to something called the Daughters of Lyrion.
Yeah, that's correct. By finding the other daughters, you'll get a little bit more backstory on who they are, so we don't want to spoil that too much. But it creates like a sort of greater story that is not on the main path in any way, but it is still very rich and adds to the lore of this world and actually plays into history.
So we just had a really exciting, really intense boss battle. I think it's time for something a little bit more relaxing and calming now.
Yeah, it's all about pacing yourself with the highs and the lows. So here we have a low chill moment of what we call building a cairn. So Eivor, as she explores the world, will find these sort of meditative areas where you have a pile of rocks that you could just stack on top of one another using physics. And I mean, yeah, the ultimate goal is to try and get the highest pile of rocks, but really it's about taking in the sights, relaxing, taking a step back, and just building something.
Together we stack stones into cairns.
These?
Yes. Think of this as a test of mind and wit. Stack the cairn stones high and wide into any shape you like.
I mean, you can spend as much time as you want building these things, making them as high as you want, as weird as you want. I'm sure like a lot of these stuff will end up on the internet, like people comparing structures. And the cool thing is that once you've built it and you decide to get out of it, it sort of stays there. And so that's yours, right? And until the moment where you come back and you want to build a new one. It's sort of cool that we were able to give that to players to express themselves.
At this point in the demo, we've explored East Anglia, we've met some children, we've broken into a house, we fought a boss, we built a cairn. I think now it's finally time to go and head off to Oswald's wedding.
Yeah, so this is the moment it's all been building up to. By the moment you get into the territory, it's sort of like mentioned by Oswald that he's trying to get married with his Dane lady. And so as you go through the arc, that's sort of like the underlying thread. Really, it's about Rued creating turmoil in the territory and helping Oswald sort of get above that and show that he's a good leader. And so you finally, after going through all of that arc, finally get these two together, go through their wedding, and you're invited to attend the ceremony. And then all the activities and fun times that comes afterwards.
Yeah, as much as we've seen the brutal side of England, it's nice to see, the joyous side of it as well.
Yeah, and it's something we really wanted to play on in Valhalla, where being a Viking is not only about being a raider or a warrior. I mean, there's revelry, there's feasting, there's partying that goes, and like if someone knows how to party, it's a Viking. And so here, this is one of our opportunities to sort of show what a sort of Viking gathering is. And what's cool here is it's a good alliance of Norse culture with Saxon culture, sort of smashing those two things together and building bridges.
Yeah, I mean, what's a wedding without some drunk archery, right?
Yeah, so like, anything can happen in a Viking event, right? Eivor, yeah, here, just get drunk, shoot some arrows.
Barely a challenge.
Steady all, and ready yourself for the wedding race. The king and his bride against all!
My king! He...
So here we see the decision I made to spare Rued came back to bite us.
Yep, that's the decision you made, coming back. So as we said before, all of your decisions have consequences, and this is a big one.
I challenge you.
I accept.
You're basically presented with the option to sort of step in for Oswald, fight the fight for him, or let him go and fight his own fight.
Yeah, personally, I chose to fight myself because I thought Eivor is the type of person who likes to finish what she started.
Plank by plank, and a dead king cannot keep his oaths. Let me finish this.
Oswald, you gutless Arya swine! I'll slay the wolf-kissed, then hang you with your own tongue.
How does this encounter with Rued differ from our previous fight with him?
So at this point, you've eliminated his wolf, so it's just him. And so he's angry at this point, and so he will start using his big gun abilities like fairly earlier on in the fight. So it's way more vicious, way faster. There's less strategy. He goes literally swords blazing at you. And so this is a fight to the death. And of course here, like, this is a decision you made to go and fight him, but there's multiple outcomes to this scenario. You could have let Oswald fight his own fight and prove basically his station as the rightful leader. If you had eliminated Rued, obviously this would not have happened. It would have been a slightly more joyous occasion. But ultimately, in all scenarios, you still have an alliance with Oswald. He's proven to be the right leader for this territory and to be a good ally for you.
A great service. I promised you an alliance, and now you have it.
And one day I will need you to make good on that alliance.
So we're about to take off from the wedding, but Eivor decides it's a good idea to check up on her friend Finner.
Yeah, so Finner is probably one of the more recurring characters in this arc. You get to meet him very early. He's a very endearing character, sort of used to have a Viking life, sort of misses it, and going through all these adventures together is sort of like lights that fire back, and so he's willing to join you in your raiders. So he's one of many raiders that you'll encounter in the game, and you can sort of recruit, bring back home, and then have them sort of join you on your adventures on Longship. He can tell you these stories that we're telling you about. You get to know a little bit more about him. So again, it's a fun way to sort of discover more about these characters that you meet and bring them along for adventures.
Together, I'll gather my things.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of our Assassin's Creed Valhalla playthrough. Phyz, thank you so much for joining us. When and where can people play it?
Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be out on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and is coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, and Stadia on November 17th.